Paladin Sacrifice build is not really a secret anymore. Actually, you might have already known or tried this class. If you're running this build, then you already know, high HP alone you're good in PvP. But what if I told you that's still not enough? Where do you even source the materials to upgrade those stats consistently? I'm the Wandering Frog, where we find the real fun in gaming. If you've seen my videos before, I mostly talk about the Royal Guard class from Ragnarok Origin Global, and honestly, I enjoyed playing the Sacrifice build of Paladin all the way up to Warrior Zeal of Royal Guard class. To be honest, I don't really follow straight up builds. I experiment with setups that can break the meta. But let's talk about Paladin in Ragnarok Origin Classic. There are 3 ways to build a Paladin, and today we're going to talk about the build most people use for this class, the Sacrifice build, but with a twist. Before we proceed, I'd like to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this video, LDCloud. You guys know I'm all about that play-life balance, and these guys are the secret to keeping it. Look, we all know, monster research gives a massive stat boost, but if you're F2P, grinding that out on one phone is a nightmare. You're losing hours of your life for a few stats. That's where the multi-instance feature comes in. Basically, you get digital devices that run multiple Ragnarok Origin Classic accounts at once, 24/7. It's the perfect setup for a monster research team. You farm 4 times faster without even touching your actual phone. The best part? You can run it from any browser, so zero stress on your device. And if you want to try it out, you can get started for only 10 cents using my link in the description. There are even more discounts waiting for you in there. How's that for a play-life balance? Thanks LDCloud. Alright, back to the main thing. Let's start off with the Sacrifice skill. It says here that once activated, your normal attack converts into force neutral physical damage multiplied by 7% of your max HP. That already tells us something important. This skill's damage is fueled mainly by max HP, meaning not physical attack, and not boosted elemental damage either. So yes, physical attack is basically not part of the equation here. No brainer, right? But here's the part most people probably missed. Even though the damage scales from HP, the skill itself is still considered physical damage. That means increasing your physical damage percentage will still amplify the overall damage output of Sacrifice. And wait, there's more. Critical damage percentage adds up as well. This is where things start getting interesting because most players tunnel vision into stacking pure HP only, thinking bigger HP automatically means stronger Sacrifice damage. Technically yes, but you're leaving a lot of damage potential on the table. Since the skill ignores a lot of the usual modifiers like race bonuses and elemental boosts, there are really only 3 major stats we need to focus on for maximizing the damage output of this build. High max HP, high critical damage percentage, high physical damage percentage. That's the core of the build. Now, here comes a twist. Instead of building like a traditional tank that only stacks HP and survives forever, we're pairing it with Reflect Shield. Because, why not? Reflect Shield not only boosts our physical damage reduction, but it also returns melee damage back to the attacker. And when paired with Naga Shield, the reflected damage becomes even more annoying to deal with. So while we're bonking enemies with Sacrifice damage, they're also killing themselves by hitting us. Good combo, right? Of course, Reflect Shield mainly works against melee classes, unless we get lucky enough to obtain the Maya card. At that point, we basically become an all-around Reflector boy, sending both physical and magic damage back to whoever touches us. Alright, let's start off with the stats. We already mentioned that for the Sacrifice skill to work properly, we need a huge HP pool. That's why Vitality becomes the perfect core stat for this build, since it boosts max HP while also giving a bit of additional defense. But here's something important. If you ever get the chance to choose between flat Vitality and HP percentage boost, the HP percentage option is usually better. Why? Because once your base HP becomes massive enough, percentage boosts give way more value compared to just stacking raw Vitality alone. And it doesn't stop there. Since Vitality increases our HP, it also indirectly boosts the additional reflected damage from Reflect Shield when paired with the Naga Shield. So basically, every point of HP we gain is giving value to both our Sacrifice damage and our reflected damage at the same time. Now, while we're pumping most of our stats into Vitality, we'll place the remaining points into Agility mainly for attack speed. Faster attack speed means faster Sacrifice procs, and faster procs mean more pressure during fights. Of course, fast attacks should come with strong critical hits as well. Since we're not investing heavily into luck stats here, we compensate by getting crit through enchants and equipment. This part is actually very important because a lot of players right now are starting to build crit resistance, and trust me, we'll talk more about enhancements and counter building in the next video, so hit that subscribe button if you want updates on that. Now, you might ask, where do we even source all these stats? Honestly, vitality is everywhere if you know where to look. You can get it from feathers, enchantments, divine armaments, equipment upgrades, and of course, cards. And don't forget this part. Prioritize collecting cards that give HP percentage boosts and damage reduction effects. Those cards will massively improve both your survivability and your overall damage output for this build. Now, let's talk about the skills. Honestly, there's not much pressure when it comes to the swordsman tier skill setup. Most of the important stuff comes later on, so you have a bit of freedom here. But if there's one skill I highly recommend maxing out, it's increased recuperative power. That extra recovery and HP potion effectiveness becomes super valuable for this build, especially in longer PvP fights where sustain matters a lot. I would also personally go for Endure level 10. Not only does it give additional magic defense, but the Endure state itself is extremely useful when you're diving into fights and trying to maintain pressure without constantly getting interrupted. As for the remaining skill points, honestly, feel free to enjoy and experiment. Mine personally went into Sword Mastery and Provoke. Who knows, maybe one day I'll randomly switch into a sword type setup. We don't stay loyal to one build forever around here. Now, for the Crusader tier skills. This is where most of the important stuff for the build starts showing up. First things first, max out Cavalier Mastery immediately so you never think about it anymore. Mobility matters a lot. Next priority is Faith. Max this skill as soon as possible because it directly boosts your max HP, and at this point we already know HP is basically the fuel source of this entire build. From there, work your way down toward Auto Guard. But here's the important part, don't max Auto Guard yet. Just leave it for now because we still need to manage our skill points properly. Instead, allocate points into Smite level 5 so we can unlock Shelter. Once Shelter is available, pump it only to level 3. We're mainly doing this as a requirement to unlock an important Paladin skill later on, so no need to overinvest for now. And of course, don't forget Spear Mastery. Max that out as well because we'll need it later to unlock Spear Quicken. Now for the Paladin tier skills. At this point, head straight into Spear Quicken and max it out immediately so we can finally unlock the Sacrifice skill. Once Sacrifice becomes available, this is where the build truly starts coming online. And no, don't be shy with the Reflect Shield and Defending Aura. Pump those skills up. Reflect Shield is one of the core reasons this build becomes so annoying to fight against, especially for melee classes. Meanwhile, Defending Aura gives us additional survivability against range pressure, making us harder to burst down during PvP fights. Also, make sure to max out Battle Stance. The stat boosts from this skill help round out the build nicely, especially when we're balancing survivability and damage output together. Now, remember earlier when I told you to keep Shelter at level 3? This is the reason why. That unlocks Fortitude, which gives us even more HP and tankiness. More HP means stronger sacrifice damage, stronger reflected damage, and overall better sustain in fights. Everything in this build keeps scaling back into HP value. And don't forget the utility skills too. Skills like Quick Slide and Crushing Roar are extremely useful during PvP situations for repositioning, chasing, disengaging, or simply creating pressure during fights. By this point, you may still have some leftover skill points. Feel free to head back into the Crusader tier tree and invest more into Auto Guard or Demon Bane depending on what you prefer. Personally, I like having flexibility here because the build already does its main job well, so the extra points can be adjusted depending on your playstyle. Now let's talk about skill setup and manual slots. For my manual skill slot 1, I usually place all the active combat skills in front. This makes it easier for me to quickly see which skills need recasting during fights, especially important buffs and toggles like Sacrifice, Sight, and Battle Chant. In PvP, things happen fast, so having your important active skills visible immediately helps a lot with reaction time and overall control. For manual skill slot 2, that's where I normally place all the long duration buffs, basically the cast once and maintain type of skills. Keeping them separated makes the interface cleaner and less chaotic during fights. Now, for auto settings, yes, you can put basic attacks on auto, but personally, I still recommend controlling your character manually during PvP. And here's the reason why. Whenever enemies start running away, auto attack tends to randomly switch targets, especially onto pets. Once that happens, your character suddenly stops chasing the actual player and you lose pressure immediately. The gears. For the main hand weapon, Trembling Spear is basically the bread and butter of the Sacrifice build. Honestly, this weapon feels like it was made specifically for this setup. First of all, it gives us unlimited sacrifice bonks, which already makes the gameplay feel smoother and more aggressive during fights. No awkward downtime, no worrying too much about maintaining pressure. It also gives a decent amount of attack speed, which is extremely important for sacrifice builds since faster attacks mean faster sacrifice procs. It even comes with an immobilized chance per hit. Think about how annoying that is in PvP. You're already getting bonked by HP scale damage, and now you also have a chance of getting rooted in place while trying to escape. It creates constant pressure against enemies, especially during chaotic fights. This weapon perfectly complements everything the build is trying to achieve: survivability, sustained pressure, and non-stop aggression. Let's not look away from this weapon. Trembling Spear is simply too good to ignore for sacrifice paladins. For your armor, cloak, and shoes, go for the Goibin set. This is the all-time favorite for tanks for a reason. It provides massive physical and magical damage reduction, plus a nice vitality boost. On top of that, you'll activate those crucial elemental damage reductions to keep you standing longer. Now for the shield, Naga Shield. This is where the real plot twist of the build starts kicking in. The main reason we want this shield is for the Reflect damage boost. Since we already invested heavily into Reflect Shield earlier, this equipment perfectly amplifies that mechanic even further. But wait, it gets better. Naga Shield also adds additional damage scaling based on HP. And by now, you already know this build is stacking absurd amounts of HP from almost every possible source. So not only are we dealing sacrifice damage through our attacks, enemies are also hurting themselves every time they hit us. And honestly, that alone is already enough to keep those annoying melee boys at bay. While they're busy damaging themselves trying to kill us, we can shift our attention toward the real threats, the magic boys and range boys sitting safely at the backline. Now for the accessories, for me it's still necklace all the way. Remember earlier, we already sacrificed the HP boost benefits from Holy Guard Shield because we replaced it with Naga Shield for the Reflect damage setup. So at this point, we need another way to push our HP scaling even higher. That's where Necklace comes in. This accessory works perfectly for the build because it gives additional HP for every 10 points of Vitality. And since we're heavily investing into Vitality already, the value we get from this accessory keeps scaling alongside our build. The necklace also gives additional vitality and raw HP on its own, making it one of the most efficient accessories for maximizing our overall HP pool. Everything keeps looping back into HP value, which is exactly why this accessory fits the build so perfectly. Cards are a bit different for paladins, in my opinion. For the weapon cards, I go double Squidget cards. Since sacrifice damage is not boosted by race bonuses, focusing on critical damage is the better choice at this point. For cloak cards, I'm still using double Choco cards since I switched from another class. But honestly, I think Orc Baby cards would be more viable at this point because of the neutral resistance boost. I'm spamming Muka cards for the vitality stats and HP recovery to boost sustainability. Just make sure to reserve one slot for Harang card for PvP, especially if you don't have Maya purple card yet to detect hidden enemies. No costume cards yet for me, but if I get the chance, Baphomet Puppet is the way to go for those PvP stats. It's the baby pacifier for my mouthwear until we get that Doppelganger Puppet 2, which gives better reduction against medium-sized enemies. Currently, I'm using Lieb Olmai and Sakura MVP card for vitality and HP boost, but if we get lucky, I would opt for Maya purple card for extra vitality boost plus detecting hidden enemies, which is great for PvP. Steel Fur Grizzly also works best for tanks. Rose Ornament is the only card I think works best for Paladin Sacrifice, since most other cards in this gear are focused on race bonuses. This card gives us HP, so it's better to stick with it. For mid-game, I believe switching to Ghost Ring is the better choice for sustain since I usually encounter physical attacks in PvP. Although, it's kind of rare, so I'm sticking with my Creamy Fear card for now. For the shield, since we're mostly up against melee classes, we need to pump our physical damage reduction even further, so we go for the Edga Illusion card from the Point Shop. For added sustain, we also get the Thara Frog card for demi-human reduction. For the shoes, we use Moonlight Flower card for the movement speed boost, while Verit card gives us more HP. Although, if you have better upgrades, go for Sohi card instead. It's just that Verit is easier to upgrade. I honestly don't even remember how I got this Drake puppet, but that physical damage reduction stat is really good for extra sustain. Now, for mount stats, one of the best progression systems in this game. Just a disclaimer, I came from a physical attack-based class, so I'm not really able to maximize mount progression right now. Still waiting for that mount stat reset update. Anyway, I believe spamming Sturdy Barding is the way to go for this class. It adds more defensive stats, which pairs perfectly with our high HP build. At the same time, it also gives a solid PvP damage bonus, which helps us deal more pressure in fights. Next is Strength Barding. This one is more focused on race reduction bonuses, but beyond that, it also gives a huge max HP increase, which fits the sacrifice build perfectly. Overall, I think these mount stats are the best ones to focus on for Paladins. Let me know in the comments what you think. Paladins are actually a very versatile class, especially in PvP. They can attack fast, burst hard, run fast, and tank. The only downside I think is that it's a single target class, but nonetheless, there's no perfect class. I'll upload soon and share mid-game enchants for this class. If it's not linked here yet, it just means the video is still in development. In the meantime, hit that subscribe button so you get notified when there's an update. Thanks for watching.